Shourd is one of a group of 3 Americans detained in Iran. They were arrested in July 2009 near Iran's border with Iraq. Iran accused the Americans of spying, although their families have always insisted they were hiking in northern Iraq and strayed across the border by accident.
In July of last year, all 3 were arrested inside what Iran claimed to be its territory. But their families said the 3 had been hiking on what they believed to be the Iraqi side of the border.
Well, joining me now to talk about this is Shiva Mahbobi from the Campaign to Free Political Prisoners in Iran. Shiva, first of all, it's confirmed that she's been released and heading towards Oman. Why do you think she was released today?
Well, obviously, she was released, they released her to ease the international pressure in regard to nuclear program, and also I think specifically in this time because of the international pressure due to the Sakina Ashtiani's case, which has provoked an international outrage, and even European Parliament has passed a resolution to condemn Iran for violation of human rights. I think this is a good time for them to do that, to ease the pressure of the regime.
So this was a political gesture of goodwill?
Not a goodwill at all, because there are thousands of political prisoners and they've been tortured. They are in a very difficult and very critical, basically physical condition. Mansour Osanlu, the trade unionist, been having a heart condition, very dangerous one. Political prisoners in Iran, like in the prison, they die of AIDS. They've been basically diagnosed with this, but they don't do anything about it. So you can't have that. It's not because of having mercy. It's just they use it as a political tool to ease that pressure. And especially,
well, you should know what you're talking about because you were held for 3.5 years as a political prisoner in Iran.
Exactly. I was 16 years old when I was in prison for 3.5 years. And I have seen actually a mom who was giving a birth to a child and they wouldn't open the door. We never knew what happened to that woman. So that kind of regime, the regime who've been even torturing 13 years old in prison, raping 13 years olds, can have a mercy on someone. And the question is, why they haven't released her now? Have they just realized yesterday that she got pre-cancer?
Exactly. Why today?
Well, why today? As I mentioned, because of the international pressure, and I think Sakina Ashtiani's case, the woman who was sentenced to death by stoning, was it was an issue. All the government, all people all around the world, they put pressure on the Iranian regime. And
so it's linked.
Yes, exactly, absolutely. And also, as you know, like in September, I think in 2 weeks, Ahmadinejad gonna attend the United Nations, the general, meeting.
Right.
So therefore all these are connected to give a good sort of thing that they're not able to do that, because the question is what happened to the other 2, why they haven't released the other 3.
Yes. And I was going to ask you, what do you think has happened to the other 2? Are they being held as some kind of bargaining tool?
Well, exactly. They're as a hostage, so they can deal with it. So they can later on, they can do something with it. In another time, they're hoping that they can ease the pressure in that way.
I see. And I'm told they're released on $500,000 bail. So that's, forget the bail, she's off, she's gone. Who would have paid that money?
Well, I think even now they charge Iranian political prisoners even with the almost same amount or half of that amount. Who would have paid? I mean, if you want your child to be released, obviously you would do anything. The US government said that they're not going to pay for that. So even their family had difficult time to raise that money to do that. I think you would do anything to do that. But just bear in mind that sometimes they say that, but they don't necessarily release them. In one of the cases, the trade union is basically Behnam Ibrahim, so that happened the same. They said we're not going to release him. But in this case, because they wanted to ease the international pressure, that's why they released it, even though we don't know if the $500,000 were paid or not.
On a personal note, I said earlier, and you agreed that you had been a political prisoner, this young lady was held in solitary confinement for up to a year. What impact do you think that might have had on her physically and mentally?
You wouldn't even imagine. I've been in prison, in solitary confinement for 7 months without even being able to visit my family. I think mentally, physically, it really breaks you down, and especially mentally. And in that way, you don't feel like you are the same person as before. And probably, even if they get released, the torture and the effect of that stays with them for years and years and years.
Yes, of course. All right, Shiva, we'll leave it there. But many thanks to you for coming in.
You're welcome.